Hi there, I'm Taylor Torgano. Here is your Spectrum News 1 update. Fire crews are responding to a growing brush fire in Riverside County in the area of Homeland. The Hills fire broke out around 2 p.m. this afternoon and swelled to around 70 acres. CAL FIRE says structures are threatened and they started evacuations of around 20 to 30 homes on Falcon Crest Road. We'll keep you updated on this fire throughout the evening. And firefighters extinguished a string of house fires in Orange County last night. Crews responded to 2 fires in Westminster and 1 each in Lake Forest and Mission Viejo. The extent of the damage is still not known, but the OC Fire Authority says they work to save as many belongings as possible. No word on if fireworks are to blame.
Time now for traffic and weather. Happy Friday. I'm Ferdinand. If you're not too bad on the roadways this afternoon, definitely feeling like a holiday. Let's take you to downtown. There's one issue, a stalled vehicle there right on the 101, right at the 101 and 110. Again, that's more in the northbound direction, but you can see the traffic around downtown LA. Slow, but not stopped like it usually is. The 10 is also looking pretty good at this hour as well. So good news on the roadways, and yes, it is still hot outside. Look at the temperatures. Right now, we're looking at 123 in Palm Springs, up in Santa Clarita, 108. It got into the 110s up in the Santa Clarita Valley today. Ontario, 99. San Bernardino, 108. Again, these are the current temperatures, with generally 60s and 70s at the coast at this hour. Tomorrow, we cool down just a little bit, may not even be noticeable. San Bernardino dropping down to 103, 114 Palmdale, San Fernando, right around 94, 84 downtown LA with some 70s up and down the coast. Over the next 7 days, no real relief from the heat. Ever so slightly cooler going into Sunday, but we ramp right back up going into the middle part of next week.
Did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
A defiant President Joe Biden told supporters today in Wisconsin he's staying in the presidential race despite concerns over his debate performance last week. There's also this exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, seen as an additional test for the 81-year-old president. More of that interview is ahead on your evening. Welcome to your evening on Spectrum News 1. I'm Taylor Torgano, in for Amrit Singh. We begin the show tonight with Martin Luther King Jr. Community Hospital in South Los Angeles. Its future has been in jeopardy because of too many patients and not enough funding. Today, the hospital hosted a celebration for a $25 million grant as part of the new state budget Governor Newsom signed just last week. This means MLK Community Health Care will stay open at least through the end of the current fiscal year. Our Taylor Schaub is back with us. Today he's in Willowbrook. Taylor, you looked into the importance of this facility for the community. What'd you find?
Well, hey there, Taylor. Look, since this facility reopened in 2015, it's been a lifeline for these residents who, many of them live in low-income communities and don't have access or the ability to go to major hospitals outside of this area. Well, today it was this facility that needed a lifeline from the state to keep its doors open. As her sister wheels her around the corridors of MLK Community Hospital in South LA, Tamara Robertson feels a sense of relief that these doors remain open.
It's literally life or death. Like I've experienced it here at this same hospital. This is when I came from my non-stress test.
Robertson's connection to the hospital runs deep. She gave birth to her youngest child here just a few years ago and knows the critical importance of having a hospital nearby. So do others, which has tripled the number of emergency room patients since opening in 2015, with the public insurance money just not adding up to pay the bills.
We know how real it is for hospitals to close down. It's happened. We've seen it happen.
After learning that black infants were dying at the highest rate of any race, the mother of 5 decided to become a doula.
When I discovered what was going on in the community, it was like, no way I was going to sit around and do nothing about it.
Now with the hospital on the brink of shutting down once again, Robertson's phone has been blowing up with calls from expected mothers, all with the same urgent question.
Well, where are we going to go? And how are we going to get there?
The closure of 17 maternal wards in LA County over the past 4 years has only heightened this crisis.
Our hospital is not at the finish line.
CEO Dr. Elaine Batchelor says a $25 million commitment in the state budget will keep the doors open for now.
It will allow us to keep serving women in our community and providing the maternity and delivery services that they need.
The hospital continues to face a daunting $42 billion deficit and will need to restructure its funding in order to keep the doors open past 2025.
This hospital and healthcare system represents a critical access point for the people in the community to get health care and to have services for the medical needs they have.
Gotta keep going, yeah.
As for Robertson, she's just grateful that she can continue to come here with her clients.
The truth is we don't have access to all hospitals. You know, this is the hospital that is in our community. This services our community, and this is it's ours.
A vital service for a community that desperately needs it.
Now, Taylor, you heard Robertson talk about the access and the opportunity in that story. And one of the points that she made clear to me is it's not just about traveling to a different hospital. Sometimes you don't have the time to make it that far in case of an emergency. So having a big hospital like this in this community really matters to her, really matters to her friends and her family. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that, Taylor. That equity and access is something we talk about so much here, and it is so important. The Orange County District Attorney has charged 3 suspects with murder after a deadly attempted armed robbery at Newport Beach's Fashion Island. The DA's office said Leroy McCrary, Jaden Cunningham, and Malachi Darnell would face the death penalty if a jury convicts them as charged. The men allegedly attempted to rob a 68-year-old woman from New Zealand and her husband, and then ran her over with their car, killing her earlier this week. All 3 defendants are held without bail. 2 cars crashed head-on in Malibu, killing one of the drivers. This happened shortly after 11 p.m. last night on PCH, west of Carbon Canyon. Investigators say one of the drivers crossed the center median. The road finally reopened about 8:30 this morning. A car struck and killed a mountain lion on the 405 freeway near the Getty Center. Caltrans picked up the animal from the center divider just before 6 p.m. yesterday. The same thing happened just last month on the 101 freeway near Agora Hills, near the future Wallace-Annenberg Wildlife Crossing. The project's expected completion is late 2025 or early 2026 to provide a safe passage for animals to cross the freeway. A fire broke out in a row of cypress trees in Northridge, threatening nearby homes. That happened just before midnight on North Paso Robles Avenue. Embers fell on the roofs of neighboring homes, and fire crews put out the flames a short time later. There weren't any injuries or damage to the homes. No word yet on what caused the fire. Authorities in Lakewood issued 36 citations for illegal fireworks yesterday, seizing more than 800 of the explosives. In recent years, the city increased the fines to $2,000 or more for skyrockets, firecrackers, and anything else that explodes in the air. Ferd, I don't know if you heard it yesterday. It was very loud.
It was very loud and very smoky pretty much everywhere in the basin. Check out these temperatures. These are the observed highs out there. It was hot in the Coachella Valley, Inland Empire, very hot, and up in the high desert, also very hot. And there were some records in jeopardy. Here's kind of a hint where there might have been a record set. First, let's go ahead and send it out to Jazz Kang, who's in Newport Beach.
The use of artificial intelligence is growing not only across the country, but throughout the entire world. I'm Jazz Kang in Newport Beach. Coming up, I'll have the story of how one man used the technology to build his own business.
Time now for Weather on the Ones. I'm meteorologist Ferdinand Fuhrer. So yes, it was hot out there, Coachella Valley. We talked about it yesterday, and we actually broke the record today. All-time record, 124 is the new all-time high for Palm Springs Airport. Old record, 123 degrees. And this is a big deal because this period of record goes back to 1893. So that's hot. So the heat continues out through the Coachella Valley and pretty much all of Southern California. The heat advisory on the west side of the mountains, that'll be in effect till Sunday. Then we'll get more of a sea breeze there. But all the way through next Wednesday in our mountains and deserts, and that could even be extended. And then when you look across the whole entire west, and now the heat is even extending farther inland into Utah, Nevada, into Phoenix, or actually into Arizona. So yes, the heat continues, big ridge of high pressure. You know, that's dominating our weather. A big difference, though, if you're heading out to the coast. If you're looking for some sunshine, we should see more sunshine here over the next couple days. But again, the marine layer will do its thing in the morning. It'll push into the basins, maybe some patchy, dense fog as well. It'll clear back to the coast by about noon or so. And again, some beaches could possibly stay in the clouds throughout the afternoon. Just make note of that. If you are going to the beaches, bring a sweatshirt because it could be, well, chilly, especially if you're coming from temperatures where it's over 100 degrees. So just make note of that so you're not, well, cold. I've seen that happen quite often. So here are your forecast highs. So still hot. San Bernardino 103, Lake Elsinore 101, some 90s in the valleys there. Santa Clarita Valley 102. Places in the Santa Clarita Valley got over 115 today. So it was very hot. 70s for the most part at the coast. But again, as I've said before, you go a couple miles inland under the sun, you could definitely get into the low 80s out there. So the heat continues. Here's Riverside for you. Average 92, above average for the next 3 days, and then we go well above average after that, Taylor. So the heat continues in Southern California.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Ferd.
You got it.
U.S. employers added 206,000 jobs in June, a positive sign for a growing economy, yet down from last month's gain of 218,000. Taylor Popularts has more on what this could mean for interest rates.
President Joe Biden's administration is celebrating the June jobs report while also saying there's more work to do. We spoke with Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su, who said it shouldn't be lost that almost 16 million jobs have been created since Biden took office.
None of this was inevitable. Many people bet against it. A lot of people said we would not bring the unemployment rate down to 4% this quickly, that we could never create this number of jobs. You know, no, we've not only recovered all the jobs that were in place in 2020, we've created more of them.
The June jobs report listed 206,000 jobs created and the unemployment rate at 4.1%. That's a tenth of a point higher than the unemployment rate in May, and the first time the rate has been above 4% since November 2021. Economists say the job market remains strong given the high interest rates imposed by the Federal Reserve to cool inflation. Acting Secretary Su told us the Biden administration is playing a long game by building manufacturing facilities that will create more jobs down the road, but she recognizes that many Americans feel the economy is not working for them right now. She also told us this when asked about Biden's ability to do the job moving forward, a question being raised about the 81-year-old president since his poor debate performance last week.
I would say to anybody who's hearing a lot of noise that the American people should know that they have a president who cares about them, who's working for them, who knows how to deliver for them, and who has an optimistic view about what's possible in this country.
Even with the strong job growth, many voters have voiced concerns about the economy, creating a drag on Biden's re-election chances. Biden said in a statement that he's fighting to lower costs for things like groceries and medicine because he knows too many Americans are still feeling squeezed by the cost of living. In Washington, Taylor Popolars, Spectrum News.
Thank you, Taylor. Let's take a look at stocks for the day. The Nasdaq and S&P 500 posted record closes today to cap off the trading week shortened by the July 4th holiday. Markets reacted to the monthly jobs report that showed the labor market may be cooling, raising investors' hopes that the Federal Reserve could soon cut interest rates. Palestinian authorities say an Israeli military operation in the West Bank killed 7 people. The Israeli military says it was carrying out counterterrorism activity, including an airstrike in Jenin. Israeli soldiers say they surrounded a building where terrorists had barricaded inside and exchanged fire. The Islamic Jihad militant group says 4 of the dead were members of the group. The United Kingdom is now in the hands of Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer, who voters elected prime minister after a landslide victory ousted conservatives from power. The center-left Labour Party secured its biggest majority in history from yesterday's elections. And this morning, Starmer took the podium for the first time as prime minister.
I have just returned from Buckingham Palace, where I accepted an invitation from His Majesty the King to form the next government of this great nation. I invite you all to join this government of service in the mission of national renewal. Our work is urgent, and we begin it today.
Starmer is Britain's 58th prime minister and was elected leader of the Labour Party back in 2020. His party's landslide victory ends 14 years of control by the Conservative Party. Former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak called the election a sobering verdict. As we consider what else you need to know tonight, sharks bit 3 people at Texas and Florida beaches yesterday. In Texas, police say 4 people encountered a shark off South Padre Island. 2 were bitten and another was injured while trying to help. In Florida, a 21-year-old from Ohio was bitten near Sirma Beach. He was taken to the hospital in stable condition. New Sirma Beach is known as the shark bite capital of the world. In Colorado, a family's dog started a kitchen fire. Security video captured the dog accidentally turning on the stove. According to the Colorado Springs Fire Department, a high heat alert from their Apple HomePod awoke the homeowners. They were able to put out the fire, and paramedics took them to a hospital to be treated for smoke inhalation.
Time now for a look at what's happening in our community. Brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani and your team at calljacob.com.
Time now for Weather on the Ones. I'm meteorologist Ferdinand Fury. Looking at a nice picture there from El Segundo last night before the fireworks show there. A little bit of a breeze, but the water tower lit up nicely there. Thanks to Fiona F. in El Segundo for sending us that picture. And now here is a live picture there, Ventura Harbor. Hey, you've got some sunshine up there along the Ventura coast today. The last few days, you've been kind of socked in the low clouds. Temperature there, well, low 60s, so comfortable and nice there. Nice and sunny finally. People going out for a little boat ride out there. Tomorrow, temperatures generally in the 70s for the Ventura coast, 90s in our valleys, even some hundreds in the deeper valleys there, so the heat wave does continue. LA coast, middle 70s to upper 70s. You get into the basins, generally 80s out there. As far inland as Covina, getting into the 90s. Those 90s turn into 100s as you go deeper into the Inland Empire. San Bernardino 103. Coachella Valley cooling down from that record high of 124 down to 119. Highly doubt that's going to be noticeable for you there. And then down toward the San Diego coast, middle 70s to upper 70s, maybe a low 80 out there. Lake Elsinore 101 degrees. So yes, the heat does continue, all because of this ridge of high pressure. And it is not moving anywhere. It is pretty much locked in, keeping us under this, well, heat dome. And it's going to go through the first part of the week into the middle part of next week. And then there could possibly be a little bit of relief as we head into next weekend as an area of low pressure starts to get a little closer to us. But just stay tuned. Ridge could come back very quickly. All right, here's your 7-day forecast. So we got some patchy dense fog near the coast here for the overnight hours into early tomorrow morning, and then pretty much 70s for the next 7 days. Again, a couple miles inland. I know I sound like a broken record, but we can easily get into the 80s there. For the LA Basin, same story, but 80s. You go deeper into the Inland Empire, you can get into the in the LA Basin, I should say. You can get into the 90s. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, pushing that 90-degree mark. San Fernando Valley, low 90s here for the next couple days, and then we push 100 again as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. And for the mountains, hot by mountain standards, upper 80s to 90s. You see the average is only 78 degrees there, so that's pretty hot there. High desert, wind machines turn on. That'll really increase the fire danger as those temperatures soar into the 100 to 110 range as we head into your Sunday. Coachella Valley, yep, hot. Look at that, 119, 120 here for the next 7 days. No relief, about 10 to 15 degrees above average, Taylor. Hot.
Dangerously hot. Thank you, Bird. Artificial intelligence continues to make headlines as the adoption of the technology increases, bringing with it some added fears. Jazz King has a story of how one man implemented the technology right into his own company. Jazz.
A recent study done by Checker finds that roughly 3/4 of all American workers are afraid AI might take their jobs. I'm Jazz Kang in Newport Beach with a story of how one man embraced the technology to build his own business.
Learning about AI.
He used to make websites. Now he's making songs.
It might only take about 10 seconds to generate a track.
Brad Zangwell is an entrepreneur. He runs his own wedding photography and customization business. When he graduated from college, he didn't think he'd be doing this.
I started my own web design company, and I was running that for about 10 to 15 years, and I noticed that the industry was changing a lot as my business was progressing, and it was making it more difficult to make money, and technology was changing.
According to Goldman Sachs economists, around 300 million full-time jobs around the world will be automated in some way through AI in the coming years. Brad says it was important for him to learn about the technology to continue to expand his business.
I would never previously have really offered any kind of music creation to anybody for their own custom purposes because it's a lot of work and it costs a lot of money to do productions.
The custom songs furthered his business, and he says it helped him earn more money by saving time. Brad didn't even know how to use AI until he met a group of like-minded people.
The networking group was great because we were talking about what platforms are out there, how people are using them, and what's coming out in the future.
That's where he met Stefan Fitzpatrick, a software engineer and CEO of the No Such Agency. He organizes bi-weekly meetups in Orange County so people from all walks of life can learn how to use AI.
My larger goal is to connect people and get them using and understanding AI by figuring out how to fit it into their own lives.
According to the Pew Research Center, only 27% of Americans use AI on a daily basis. Stefan thinks that number will continue to increase.
It's one of these technologies that is going to touch anything and everything that we do, and making sure that we have that connection here in Orange County to make sure that people can get together, learn from one another, and begin using the technology in their daily lives.
Brad's presenting at this meetup to share his knowledge with the crowd to help them further their personal and professional goals. He says it's important for everyone to embrace the technology sooner than later.
If you learn what's available now and then you kind of progress with the trends, it'll be a lot easier in a few years when the whole world is using AI.
With AI becoming more and more mainstream, Brad's looking forward to using the tools to continue to grow his business.
Thank you, Jazz. A survey by CNBC finds that fears about AI are more prevalent among young people, with 37% of respondents saying they're scared they will lose their jobs to technology. Hello there, I'm Taylor Torgano. Here is your Spectrum News 1 update. 3 men are being charged with murder after an attempted armed robbery turned deadly at Newport Beach's Fashion Island. The Orange County DA's office says Leroy McCrary, Jaden Cunningham, and Malachi Darnell face the death penalty if convicted. The men allegedly attempted to rob a 68-year-old woman from New Zealand and then ran her over with their car, killing her. All 3 defendants are being held without bail. Low-interest federal disaster loans are now available for small businesses that were impacted by the March storm, which closed Topanga Canyon Boulevard due to a landslide threat. An assistance hotline and email have been set up for affected businesses to fill out applications. That information can be found on your screen. Health officials are warning of poor air quality across SoCal as a result of fireworks. Much of the LA basin and San Gabriel Valley is experiencing either unhealthy or hazardous air conditions. Officials recommend staying indoors and avoiding physical activity if you are sensitive to poor air quality. The power adapters for nearly 1 million Hatch Baby sound machines have been recalled because they could pose a shock hazard. Officials say when the adapter is unplugged, its plastic housing could come off, exposing the power prongs.
Time now for Weather on the Ones. I'm meteorologist Ferdinand Fuhrer. I hope you had a nice 4th of July holiday and happy Friday to you. Here are the skies over Chino Hills. You see the brown out there, smog from all the firecrackers and fireworks last night, plus some fires in the area. Well, it was poor air quality, needless to say. If you are doing anything outside, make sure to drink plenty of fluid. Still hot out there. Inland, we're going to be in the 90s through the evening hours, dropping down into the 70s under clear skies, although hazy. And then for tomorrow, right around 100 degrees again.
President Joe Biden is fighting to save his re-election candidacy after his faltering debate performance, holding a rally in Wisconsin and sitting for a national television interview, seeking to demonstrate that he can successfully campaign against former President Donald Trump and serve 4 more years. Here's more of the exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos.
I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked them if they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
ABC News has the full interview. Our Cassie Simeon has more details for us now. Cassie.
President Joe Biden sat down for an exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos Friday, wrapping up one of the most consequential days of his long political career as he tries to vanquish doubts about his ability at the age of 81 to serve 4 more years as president following his poor performance in last week's debate.
I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked them if they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
The interview with Stephanopoulos is the latest attempt by the Biden campaign to try and stop the bleeding, as a growing number of Democrats call for Biden to step down as the party's nominee. Stepping onto the stage in Madison, Wisconsin Friday, Biden doubled down that he would not drop out of the race.
You voted for me to be your nominee, no one else. You, the voters did that. And despite that some folks don't seem to care who you voted for, well, guess what? They're trying to push me out of the race. No! Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race.
The president seeming to stick to the pre-written script on the teleprompter, defending his record in a way that many Democrats have said they wished he was able to do in the debate last week against former President Donald Trump. The Biden campaign also announced Friday that it will spend $50 million on television, digital, and radio ads, an effort to firm up the president's support by focusing on key issues such as abortion rights, the economy, and protecting democracy. It also promised a big travel push by the president, Vice President Kamala Harris, and their spouses to every swing state this month. In Washington, Cassie Simeon, Spectrum News.
Thank you, Cassie. While Hollywood is rebuilding from last year's strikes, the film industry continues to build across the world, and one particular region is celebrating its culture and recognition. Our Ray Williams checks in with South Asian filmmakers to get the latest on Indian films.
It was a moment of glory for former criminal lawyer, now filmmaker Shuchi Dwivedi. Her pitch for her film
Friends and Fascism
won her a $10,000 grant from the Indian Film Festival of LA, or IFLA.
The stamp of IFLA is going to go a long way in getting access to grants and getting access to collaborators.
Although she's early in her career, Shuchi is inspired by the momentum Indian film is having.
The world is now recognizing that these specific Indian voices have something to say, have something interesting to say, and know how to do it in a nuanced, interesting, very sort of uplifted manner.
India's cumulative box office stood at $1.3 billion last year, and with several Indian films getting Oscar nominations between this and last year, IFLA's festival producer Nupur Sinha says,
it's the most exciting time. The wave has been building, and I think we're at a crucial moment in history where we're not just making some of the best stories, but we're being recognized by international platforms.
IFLA has been championing Indian filmmakers for 22 years, and Nupur loves that they're being heard.
We're helping elevate the voices that need to be heard, that come with these powerful, life-changing stories, not just, championing diversity, but bringing a completely different perspective, which has never been heard before.
But the triumph hasn't come without challenges. A film called Girls Will Be Girls won 2 major awards at Sundance in January.
I pledge to honor our age-old Indian culture.
The film's writer and director Shushi Talati says the film took years, and a lot of them them were tough.
The first 5 years felt like pushing a boulder up the hill, and the main obstacle really is kind of funding for independent cinema, which is not commercial first, that doesn't prioritize cast and stars first. So there's not many models for that kind of cinema.
But now with international recognition and distribution for her film, Shuchi has high hopes.
Allow films that are not like your poverty porn, stories about trauma, like let filmmakers from other parts of the world tell universal stories, different stories. And for myself, I hope to not take 8 years to make my next film.
And as she launches her career, the other Shuchi is off with a bang.
I think I've been very lucky because I found my South Asian community through IFLA, and I found friends and companions.
Indian film gone global.
A new study suggests people who take Ozempic or Wegovy may have a higher risk of developing a rare form of blindness. But the drugs are drastically improving the health of tens of millions of Americans who struggle with obesity and related diseases like diabetes. The medications are in demand and expensive, causing ripple effects across the economy. Our Lisa McCree takes a closer look in tonight's episode of LA Times Today.
These drugs have the potential to bankrupt our healthcare system. And that could mean health spending in general, or in particular, a lot of times people are talking about Medicare. You know, these drugs, once you start taking them, you're supposed to be taking them forever. You never get off them. So eventually people who are on these drugs will all get into Medicare. And if they need to be taking these for the rest of their lives, and the list price of them is $1,400 a month, basically, you know, what is that going to mean for Medicare?
For more stories like this, watch LA Times Today weeknights at 7 on Spectrum News 1. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
And you are looking at video shot from the interchange of I-105 and 110, high above South LA there. Lots of smoke in the air. And what happens after that, here's what you get the day after. All the smoke gets blown into our valleys. Here's the San Gabriel Valley, a live look there. And you can see the haze and just the smog out there. So very poor air quality. It's going to continue through tomorrow. Here's how it looked today. You see the maroon, unhealthy, very unhealthy, I should say. Red being unhealthy for everybody, and then the orange is unhealthy for sensitive groups. So if you are sensitive, or even if you're not, limit your time outside, because it's not very good to breathe that air. And then for tomorrow, not much change. A little better in some of our valleys, but nonetheless, it will still be bad. We need a good wind to blow all that smoke and haze out of here. As far as the temperatures go for tomorrow, still everybody running above average. Coachella Valley, mentioned it earlier, how they set an all-time record of 124 today. Still a good 5 degrees above average for Riverside, close to average for Fullerton and our beaches, because we do get a sea breeze there. But of course, it blows all the stuff again into our valleys. Here are your high temperatures for tomorrow. It's going to be hot again in the Coachella Valley. I mean, it's always hot in the Coachella Valley this time of year, but extra hot. San Bernardino, extra hot. Santa Clarita Valley, extra hot. Antelope Valley, extra hot. You get the picture. All of our valleys very hot. Nice at the beaches with some 70s and some 80s in our basins. And we're not going to get much of a change here over the next 10 days. Here's Saugus up in the Santa Clarita Valley. Tomorrow, low 100s, and then upper 90s for a couple days. So still very hot there. And then look at Tuesday, we're back into the low 100s. We'll keep those going for a few days. And then maybe we get a little relief going into next weekend. And then we'll compare that here with Anaheim. It's still going to be warm there, and even hotter as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, Taylor. So it's really not a whole lot of relief. If you do need the relief, head to the beaches. It's much cooler there.
Yes, it is. Hot, hot, hot. Thank you, Ferd.
You got it.
As we consider what else you need to know tonight, Italy's Mount Stromboli volcano spewed ash and lava today. The eruption raised alert levels on the island of Sicily and forced a temporary shutdown of the airport in Catania. Italy's Civil Protection Agency says it is closely monitoring this eruption and has an evacuation plan ready if needed. Mount Etna, one of the world's most active volcanoes, is also erupting in Italy right now. The U.S. government has opened a criminal investigation into allegations Chinese swimmers doped at the Tokyo Olympics. Swimming's international governing body says its head has been ordered to testify in the case. It surrounds 23 Chinese athletes who failed doping tests ahead of the Tokyo Games, but still competed. The World Anti-Doping Agency investigated and found no evidence of wrongdoing. 11 of the swimmers are set to compete in the Paris Olympics in weeks.
Your sports brought to you by GMC.
Defending champion Carlos Alcaraz of Spain rallied back to defeat American Francis Tiafoe and advanced to the fourth round of Wimbledon today. The five-set match was filled with back-and-forth drama and lasted nearly 4 hours. The third-seeded Alcaraz is seeking his fourth Grand Slam trophy. And hey, do you know an athlete who excels on and off the court or field? Nominate that person to be one of our Scholar Athletes by going to spectrumnews1.com/Scholar Athlete. There you'll find the complete rules and requirements. Becoming a sommelier, or wine expert, involves a whole lot more than just drinking fine wine, right? They're trained in service, hospitality, food pairings, and much more. Tonight, as part of a preview of the SoCal scene, we meet Devin Reed, a certified steward and master at cultivating an elevated dining experience.
So these are Lafette wines. I work with these wines every day. First one we got here, I'm gonna pop open, is our Lafette Rosé. This is one of my favorite rosés. I love the color to start with. Always give it a nice swirl. It's like a mouth-watering smell, and you always hope it translates into a mouth-watering taste. I'm so intrigued by wine, this living, breathing thing that lives in a bottle that we ultimately go and open up, and a lot of the times we have no idea what it's gonna taste like. And from there, there's a lot of learning involved, and the best way to learn is to drink, and one of the most memorable ways to learn about wine is to drink with people you love. It's awesome. There's a lot of Provence rosés that are just super light, but I like this because there's so much more of a fruitier finish and a better finish. I think it just tastes better. I'm born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. Grew up in the hood with a family that did not drink wine. 17 years ago, after I left college, I came to LA, and a few years after that, found my way in the wine industry, and from there, everything opened up. Always get a really good swirl like this because wine is a living, breathing thing that's been stuck in this bottle, and wine always benefits from oxygen. That brings out the phenolics, allows us to smell it a little bit better, allows us to interpret it a little bit better. When I first got into wine, took a job at a wine company called Wally's Wine and Spirits, an old wine shop. I had a couple bottles come across my desk one day. They looked the same. One was $50, one was $500. And that was probably the first time that I was like, what is this? It's so mouthwatering, man. It's so delicious. It just makes you, yeah, it's awesome. I wanted to become a sommelier because the title's sexy, sommelier. There was no upper level African-American wine professionals in Beverly Hills. There just wasn't. So I always knew that I wanted to take all my knowledge and just go like as far as I could with it. There's like 11% of all sommeliers are black. I just knew that I was gonna be one of those people one day. Rosé is a light grape that has a little bit of character, so it pairs well with everything. This is really good for appetizers, hors d'oeuvres, things like that, but it's a really universal wine.
Hey, it's Friday. Grab a bottle of wine and watch the SoCal scene tonight at 9 on Spectrum News 1. Stay with us.
Time now for Weather on the Ones. I'm meteorologist Ferdinand Fuhrer. I hope you had a nice 4th, and hopefully you're going to have a nice weekend, although it's going to be hot. Hot out in the waters of the Caribbean and in the Gulf of Mexico. Right now, Beryl has been downgraded to a tropical storm, but as we go through the next 24, 48 hours, It's going to probably become a hurricane again as it does go over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, making landfall. South Texas anywhere between Sunday and Monday as a Category 1 storm. And then we have our first tropical system in the eastern Pacific, now Tropical Depression Aletta. It was a tropical storm yesterday. Now it is weakening as it moves out into the open water, which is cooler, and you need at least 80 degrees of temperature to keep a tropical storm with its tropical, hurricane or tropical status out there, at least the cyclone. As far as our weather goes, here's Del Mar. We've got cloudy skies there. Got some decent surf, especially on the southwest-facing beaches. It'll increase again as we go through tomorrow. So again, Orange County, San Diego County, pretty good, 4 to 6. San Diego County, 3 to 5. Smaller up in Ventura and Los Angeles County. And pretty good risk for rip currents out there, so be careful and watch the kiddos if they're swimming out there. Water temperatures are starting to come up. Look at the 73s off the San Diego coast, upper 60s off the PV Peninsula, low 70s there in the Santa Monica Bay. Your air temperatures for the beaches generally 70s, maybe a low 80 out there as well. You see Redondo Beach getting into the upper 70s, but generally 70s at our beaches with that nice sea breeze. As we go through the afternoon hours, still hot in our inland areas, San Bernardino, Lake Elsinore, Hemet, all in the low 100s. Out toward the Coachella Valley, right around 120. Santa Clarita Valley in the low 100s. Here's your 7-day forecast. We'll start you off at the coast. So generally middle 70s here, a little warmer going Wednesday through Friday of next week. And for the OC Basin, we'll go middle 80s here for a few days and then close to 90 for a few days. And for the Inland Empire, right around 100 to 105 here till Tuesday. And then we go 105 to 110 Wednesday and Thursday. For the mountains, right around 90 for the next 7 days. Maybe a little surge of monsoonal moisture coming in as we head into the latter half of next week. High desert, 115 will drop down to 108. 108 will hold steady there beginning on Tuesday. Coachella Valley, yep, hot, right around 120 for the next 7 days, Taylor.
All right, thank you, Ferd.
You got it.
After opening in 1935, Griffith Observatory started one of the very first school visitor programs in the region. Each year, 27,000 fifth graders make the pilgrimage up Mount Hollywood for a one-of-a-kind experience in science, education, and an opportunity to reach for the stars. Our team at LA Times Today has the story.
Today, there are 100 fifth graders visiting Griffith Observatory to experience the in-person school program. All classes are coming from the Michelle Obama Elementary School from the San Fernando Valley.
We have these pegs in there, and every time you see one of those pegs get knocked down, that's visible proof that the Earth just shifted a little bit more.
We'll take them into the historic level, let them see everything in there, take them up on the roof, let them actually peer through solar telescopes. If that's not available, we'll look through binoculars, but then also they get to see the world's most visited telescope, which is the Zeiss telescope, the 12-inch refracting telescope on the roof. And then from there we go down to the depths of space where we get to talk about the planets. They actually get to go explore and go weigh themselves and go check out different aspects of our solar system.
Griffith Observatory's in-person school program has the capacity to serve 27,000 kids each year. And the online school program has the potential to serve hundreds of thousands more.
My day has been really nice, and it's been fun to explore the observatory and having these wonderful experiences.
Now we're going downstairs.
I think I was like probably 3rd or 4th grade. I was a little girl looking up in the planetarium, like I could barely reach my little head. And so that sort of experience, like we want to share with the kids.
In the constellation Aquarius, there's a star called TRAPPIST-1.
Some children may not have the opportunity, like different things go on in life that may stop them from coming, like the timing or the money or stuff, but at least as a field trip, even if it's like the first and only time, at least they got the experience so that in the future, like they get like very excited to want to come on their own personal time.
What I learned today about Uranus that I haven't already knew is that the weight is a little bit lighter on Uranus than on Earth, and it's one of the coldest planets since it's more farther away from the sun. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that I would like to learn more about. I would love to learn more about like what's out in space and what's like what other galaxies there are, and stars and planets. If there's another life out there, I would love to learn about that.
If the pendulum's swinging back and forth, she's gonna go around that pendulum for 24 hours at the North and South Pole, right?
The first time I ever actually kind of found myself looking up, I was actually with my father out in Montana, and it was a full moon. It was a beautiful winter night. There was so much snow. And I look up and there was a ring of a halo, of like a rainbow halo that was occurring. And it felt like I was supposed to be staring at it. From that moment forward, I just never stopped looking up. Last one, God of War.
Mars?
Mars.
How cool is that? Thank you. Anyone can join the Griffith Observatory Foundation in support of free, accessible STEM programs and the advancement of Griffith Observatory. To find out how to get involved, visit griffithobservatory.org. We have a full night of original programming here on Spectrum News 1, including LA Times Today after your evening, and then Inside the Issues at 8 with the SoCal Scene at 9, and then more news at 9:30.